Hello friends and welcome to another episode of Booked, a place to explore the realms of creativity. Today's guest is Molly Macabre. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited you're here. It
I'm
makes me so
excited to
happy.
be here.
Whenever I see your name pop up or like the cover of your book pop up on Twitter, I'm going to keep calling it Twitter till the cows come home. I just get so excited for you and it makes me so happy. And then when I looked on my calendar and saw that today was the day, it made me very happy. So I'm glad you're here. I'm going to stop fangirling now because you're a person. One of the things that the main focus of this episode is going to be your book Dark Bloom, which is fucking phenomenal. It's excellent. I am so over the moon thrilled to see so many people enjoying it.
Same. Absolutely
because it means
same.
They're correct. It's phenomenal, honestly, because I love a creepy book. I love zombie books. I can't deal with a zombie film or a zombie show. They just creep me out unless it's something like Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead, because I'm like, oh, comic relief. But this book is fantastic. It's so good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for writing it. I appreciate it so much. So I'm gushing about it, and I'm aware that some of the listeners, I nearly said readers, some of the listeners won't even know what this book is about. So would you be comfortable to give us an overview of what to expect if they were to pick it up?
Absolutely. So my book Dark Bloom is set in a post-apocalyptic setting where we focus on two main characters, Nick and Kate. Both of my characters have suffered really traumatic pasts in different ways. Kate has suffered a lot of traumatic sexual abuse, where the apocalypse was pretty much the reason that she's set free. She links up with Nick, who is a war veteran. He was in the Marine Corps, of course, before the world fell. And he has a lot of dealings with guilt and shame and PTSD. When they meet, there is an instant, caution. Do we trust each other? Mm-hmm. What do we do? So while their big goal is to look for a place to find as a refuge to survive, but ultimately the book is really about how they connect to each other and how they heal and building their trust with each other.
And it's the progression within the book for their relationship with one another. And by relationship, that means anything, because they're connected in the same space and they get to know each other. No spoilers. But it's really interesting to see them working through things. And you've done a good job of giving like each of the characters space to kind of work through what they're going through, so that the reader can understand, okay, so what does it take for somebody who has experienced trauma within their life to actually let somebody in close to them, which is really hard. Like, it's a hard subject. It's not, if you're looking for like a really light and breezy start to a book, try something else first and then come back to this when you're ready. But what I thought was really interesting about this, and granted I've not read a ton of books that have an apocalyptic setting because I'm very, very particular about the kind of things that I like. What I loved was that you gave the trauma that these people experienced such a high priority for them, even in spite of the fact they were fighting for their lives. Because at a surface level, you could perceive that as being like, surely the only thing you're worried about is making sure that you don't die. And then everything else is like, whatever. I just thought it was really interesting. So was that something that you had considered when you were writing it, or was it just something that you wanted to focus on because that was important to you?
I just know that, in real life, if something were to devastate the country or devastate the world around us as we know it, we're not just going to emerge reborn as these new creatures who now that's our only, focus is, okay, well, all these things happen to me, but right now this is what matters. I know that we're already forged from the things that we went through before, and that's going to carry into our survival. So writing how Nick and Kate react to things was both very different. Nick's already a soldier. He's already in fight or flight mode. Well, he's already in fight mode. But of course, he's constantly got these shameful feelings, guilty feelings holding him back.
Mhm.
And I mean, Kate, Kate doesn't really trust anyone or anything.
Mhm.
And while that seems to be something that people learn through an apocalypse,
Mhm.
as far as, because some people just are generally trusting in the society now,
Mhm.
that kind of becomes her automatic response, is which it definitely helps her in a lot of situations.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a point of that we're just not people living in an apocalypse, where people who carry many things with us from one stage of life to the other.
I was curious, what came first for you in the sort of spinning of this tale? Was it, I'm going to start with the apocalyptic scene and work from there and figure out who my characters are? Did you start with the characters and figure out what sort of difficult place you were going to put them in? How did that work for you?
The characters have lived in my head for a very long time, long before I knew I was going to write a book.
Mm.
So the characters were there. I had them. I just had to figure out what I wanted to do with them. And I already knew how their relationship was going to progress.
Mm.
I just wanted a dark setting, something chaotic, something hard to live in and with. So, I mean, zombie apocalypse, that was pretty, it's pretty easy to pick.
Pretty dark, isn't it?
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to realize, okay, from the point that this was going to be a book to actually publishing it? What was that period of time?
The writing of the book took about 2 years, but that would include everything
Mhm.
from the first time I sat down at my computer to write to actually publishing. I probably wrote the initial story maybe in 6 or 7 months,
Mhm.
and I don't remember what my thinking was when I sat down to first write it, but I can tell you I knew nothing about publishing. I knew nothing about creating books. I didn't
Mhm.
know anything. So I think I just started with, I'm going to write a book and see where it goes. And
Mhm.
then once I had beta readers who were reading it and they were like, this is really good. We're really enjoying this. And of course they were like, you should publish this. And I was like, well, that sounds really easy. I don't know anything about it. Yeah, just publish it. So I would say about a year into my writing was when
Mhm.
I started realizing, okay, this was going to be a thing. I was
Mhm.
going to figure out how to put this out into the world, do the research, talk to the right people, and for advice and tips, and make this into a book.
So your method of publishing, was that on purpose, or did you consider going like the real traditional route, or were you like, no, this is getting out into the world, whether they like it or not?
I didn't know anything about traditional publishing
Mhm.
other than the posts I had seen on Twitter from
Yeah.
querying people. It seemed so far outside of my realm and
Mhm.
my knowledge of things that it was not something I considered.
Mhm.
Um, I just really, it really wasn't like that I thought one was better than the other or
Mhm.
anything like that, because everybody has their right, routes to go.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought that this would be the best way because I'd have a handle on everything. I don't do timelines or due dates very well.
Mhm.
So I just thought, I'm just going to throw this out there and see what happens.
I mean, it seems to be going really well for you now. We are recording this quite far in advance, and I just can only assume it's going to snowball into even greater things. But it seems like you've really found your groove with um, getting the book out there. I, it seems to be partially because it's so good. Everyone's like, "This is great," and then we're all listening to each other about how great it is. But you hustle, like you do a lot of work in terms of getting it in front of people. Is that something you've obviously had to hone in on, or learn new skills?
Yeah, I'd say it's ever evolving. At first it was just plain text posts on,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook or Twitter, like, I wrote this book, and a couple people were like, yeah, cool. And then it would evolve to then they'd have my book cover on it. And, that
Mm-hmm.
book cover, my cover artist just nailed it. And that cover has gotten me a lot of sales. I will certainly admit that.
Yeah.
um it just evolves. It evolves with what I learn to do and what social media
Mm-hmm.
apps I start engaging on.
Mm-hmm.
I started using Canva, and I I have a lot of fun with that. Actually, I don't even feel it's weird. It doesn't even feel like making an ad or like, marketing. It just feels like me throwing some stuff together and it's fun. Um, I just try to stay really real with it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't try to sound too professional,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't try to sound too casual. Like, I am trying to sell a book, but I'm also trying to make you laugh in my silly little, I
Mm-hmm.
just try to come up with something that's unique, but also me at the same time. So it's been a process.
I mean, it's a fine line between, being approachable and human like and not taking it seriously, because you clearly
Mm-hmm.
take it very seriously because you put a lot of time, effort, and care into, this thing that I always see when people write things and they let people read it is one of the most vulnerable things that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
other than like
Absolutely.
stripping off in the middle of the street. um, because everybody thinks they're a critic, and everybody thinks that they are this like literary master that can pick things apart, and that's fine. Do what you want, whatever makes you happy. But what I think people need to remember is that there's a human being at the end of it that
Mm-hmm.
really tried their little socks off to get to that point. And I think it's just incredible, especially with a story like this, where there are clearly some personal sort of undertones in the content of the book, to be like, read this, please. Just I
Mm-hmm.
hope you like it. It must be so hard and so vulnerable. So yeah, I think it's really, really cool, and I love that you're still learning, and I can see you doing new stuff all the time, and you're like, let me do this, or you started your YouTube channel as well, and all that helps. Getting your face out there helps. Getting your name out there helps. People recognize, and they'll go, "Oh, I really love Molly's book reviews," and then, hang on a minute, she wrote a fucking book, and then you go check out the fucking book.
Right.
So yeah, it's something that really, really amazes me about the indie community in general, and anyone that's trying to sell a book or trying to get somebody to read their books. You have to wear every single hat that exists, and you are in
Yeah.
it all the time, and you can't stop. And if you do stop,
Mm-hmm.
people forget about you. That's kind of this recyclable news cycle of a world that we live in, is that if you're not constantly trying to get things in front of people, they'll forget, because there's another author trying to get the book out as
Mm-hmm.
well. So I think it's really cool that you are so in deep with this community, and it's really cool to see, because it helps to inspire other people as well, and it gives them an opportunity to see like what's worked for Molly, what hasn't worked. Okay, this seems to be really working for her, so let me try doing something similar. um but yeah, that was a bit of a tangent. I just got excited then.
That's okay. Yeah, anytime there's something I post that I guess could be, I don't even want to use the word copied, but
Mm.
that could be used for another author's, marketing. I've had some people be like, "Oh, I'm going to steal this." And I'm like, "It's not stealing. Like, just like, obviously don't like, repost mine and say it's your book, but like use it for your, like, yeah, that's crossing a line. But yeah, like if you like this like template of what I've done with this ad or this
Mm-hmm.
marketing, technique, take it, use it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's gotten popularity for me.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it'll get popularity for you. I that's part of the whole community, is bouncing ideas off each other and seeing what works for others,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of growing together. And I just love it. I'm like, yeah, steal away, please take it.
And that's why I love this community so much. It is so centered around just helping people. There are the outliers, and we're not going to talk about them because they're not worth the time. But
No.
there are the people who, like you, who are like, let me help, or if this is going to help you succeed, then please do it. Because to help this community to professionalize, and what I mean by that is give value to people who perhaps once thought that self-publishing or indie publishing was like not as good. We have to support each other to make it good. And so I think it was Mark Paxson I was talking to, and he offers free editorial services to authors so that he can help them to produce good books, so that when people read them and associate that with the indie community, they go, wow, that's got value. Let me read some more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it took me reading an indie book that was really good for me to go, oh shit, these are good. I had to take a chance, and it was taking a chance, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend that money. I've never heard of this
Right.
person. I'm so glad I did it because now we're here, and that's really cool. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
it just takes one.
It just takes one, and it was also like if you're doing well, it's only good for everybody else.
Right.
People who read books rarely will read one book and never read again. Like generally speaking, they want another one, and then that's how you like kind of spider out, and then all the people you're associated with then get that coverage and blah blah blah. So it's really cool. Are there any books or movies or video games actually? Because I remember that you played Scum that inspired
Mm-hmm.
any elements of this book.
Absolutely. So yes, of course, Scum. For anyone who doesn't know what Scum is an open world survival game. The premise of it is you're basically on a TV show. You're dropped on an island as an inmate, and it's player versus player. It's player versus environment, but there are puppets, which are essentially zombies, but they call them puppets,
Mm-hmm.
and they growl and chase after you and such. Um, they have specific puppets in high loot areas that wear explosives strapped to their chests, and the nearer you get to them, they will start beeping, but they also start laughing maniacally and saying
Awful.
things like, I had a family. Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
oh
it's
my
just it's
gosh.
terrible.
So many memories of some bad times with that. But that wasn't the initial I guess like how I got the idea for my laughing zombies. It
Mm-hmm.
was looking up diseases that are zombie like, and I came across the Kuru disease, which includes psychological symptoms such as random outbursts. For example, laughing was what the text said. I was like, laughing, random laughing. I was like, how creepy would that be? Zombies just running around laughing. But then when I thought
Very.
about what that would sound like, Scum definitely came to mind when I
Mm.
thought about how would that render
Mm-hmm.
in realistically. As far as movies or shows, I mean, The Walking Dead. I can't even. I know it's so cliche, but I love that show so much. That
Mm-hmm.
show had me on the edge of my seat, crying, laughing, just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I other films. I would say Bird Box in a way too.
Mm.
It sounds weird, but it's also a post-apocalyptic movie that features sort of how two people connect
Mm-hmm.
in an apocalypse. So I would definitely say that one. And A Quiet Place, another
Mm.
post-apocalyptic where that focuses on the adventures of a family. And I'm really kind of awestruck by how relationships function in an apocalypse situation where there's no ties,
Mm-hmm.
there's no obligations for people to stick around or leave or what have you. So
Mm-hmm.
that just really interests me.
I remember reading the book and going, "Oh, you should definitely play Scum." It just really there were loads of elements of it that like really creeped me the fuck out, and the laughter is one of them because it's such an unusual thing to associate with like the classic zombie expectation.
Right.
That when you bring in anything to do with like anything childlike or whimsical that you then
Mm-hmm.
mash with creepy stuff, all of a sudden magnifies the creepiness for me. Just like the twins in The Shining.
Yeah.
Creepy as shit. I don't like
Yes.
it.
Absolutely. Yeah, children can be creepy to
They
say
are
the least.
creepy. What I wanted to know was how much of this plot, and obviously give as much detail as you're comfortable to give, was like cathartic for you in terms of your experiences.
Oh man. This entire book was just cathartic for me. I it sounds cheesy or weird, but in the most artistic way possible, this book is sort of my autobiography.
Hmm,
And I know that sounds strange, but I shall explain.
thank
So, pretty much from a young age, between 14 and 18, I was in nothing but bad and toxic relationships.
you.
At 14 years old, I was with an older guy. I mean, he was 18, so not that much older, but at that age, that's incredibly,
That's a big
that's
gap.
quite a jump. He told me a lot of things, that we were going to be together forever and that he loved me. And I made a bad decision with him. Well, it wasn't a decision. It was a decision that was made for me, if you
Mm-hmm.
get what I'm trying to,
Yeah.
yeah. So then I didn't hear from him anymore. And I was really distraught because he said all these things. And at 14, you don't understand, that people say things like that just to
Mm-hmm.
gain other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of spent my entire like high school years just not caring anymore. Like love isn't real. It doesn't exist. It's dumb. Like I just, made bad decisions and
Mm-hmm.
didn't really care about myself or my body.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting into a relationship with a very very insecure, toxic, again, slightly older guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the verbal abuse was incredible. There was never any really physical abuse, but just very manipulative, very controlling. And it was, I couldn't get out. I couldn't get out of that relationship because when I told him that I wanted to leave, he would tell me things like, well, if you leave, I'm going to unalive myself.
Yep.
Or if you leave, I'm going to end up homeless and I'm going to die and it's going to be all your fault.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a while to come to terms with that and decide that whatever happened to him, I was okay with. And finally, I did end up getting out of that relationship. I, shortly after I got out of that relationship, I rekindled an old flame with someone I dated for a stint in high school, which would end up being my now husband of 12 years. At this point, I now knew what I did not want in a man. And so when he and I first started spending time together after this horrible relationship that I got out of, I was really like not sure if I even wanted to be talking to anybody at the moment. But he started checking off all my boxes, or I guess not checking them off, if that makes sense. Whatever the correct phrasing of that is, he was doing a great job. Incredibly respectful, making me laugh, and he's been, doing those things and more. Obviously, he's just the most incredible human being I've ever known.
Oh,
so this book. If you can gather some themes and like kind of some parallels between my life and what my characters went through, it was very much written, I guess, in an artistic way. And for the longest time, I would tell people, yeah, Nick's totally based off my husband. My husband was in the Marine Corps. My husband has struggled with PTSD. But really deeper than that, Nick also deals with some really hard depression. And so in a way, both characters are really just me.
Yeah.
Kate's anxiety, Kate's trauma, Nick's depression. I just wrote them really hard into both my characters. So how I mentioned earlier that my characters had been in my head for a long time.
Yeah.
One of the methods I used, I guess, as a coping method during these times where I was not really believing or wanting to have anything to do with love, there was a part of me that really wanted it to be a thing. It was deep down. I would never admit it to anybody. But while I was dealing with all these toxic relationships and horrible people that I found myself associated with, I would dissociate and kind of daydream in my head. And it would always be these two characters that were dealing with some really tough things, but they would always end up finding each other and connecting and falling in love. And it was just something I would sit and think about. And especially when I felt trapped in my relationship with the one particular boyfriend, that was something I did a lot. And it just daydream about this situation where there actually was love and someone who would protect me and someone who would fight for me and be respectful. And so I just kind of would drift away into these daydreams as a coping method, I guess. So, during our worst arguments, during my most anxious times. So when it came to the point when I finally decided I was going to write a book, I was thinking, what would I write about? And then Nick and Kate were like knocking on my brain. Excuse us, we've been here a long time. Let us out, please.
Oh, I'm really glad that you were able to take that mechanism for survival, which is basically what it was at the time, and actually made it into something artistic and tangible that you could hold and go, this actually helped me.
Right, now I'm making money off of it.
Bonus.
I'm exploiting my own trauma.
Do it. This is 2025. You can do what you like.
I imagine there's got to be people out there that have done this as well or are doing this
definitely.
now. And if my story can make their own hard times if they read it and they're like, wow, like somebody else has felt this, somebody else knows what I mean, because there is no book that's going to solve anybody's depression or,
Mm-hmm.
cure anybody's anxiety. But if a lot of times the best feeling is just not feeling alone in what you're feeling.
100%.
So if somebody reads my book and they're like, wow, somebody else has felt this way, I'm not alone, I'm not crazy, I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
feel so ashamed of what I feel, that even if it's just one person, that's a win for me. So
Yeah.
that's what really made me decide to put it out there in the world.
Something that I've just as you were talking, I was just really curious about the moment that you finished the first draft. So, considering that you had these people in your head, they were the the cushion that you had in the world that allowed you to be able to get on with your day and just keep going. Did it feel did you have an emotional response to go, I've done it. Now it's out there. It's not in my head anymore.
Yeah, I definitely felt, of course, before I do, I'm not gonna lie, I still do dissociate sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's for the purposes of coming up with new things to write about, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
just because it's still something I enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once it was out there, it was funny because some of the scenes that probably have lived in my head for years
Mm-hmm.
just weren't popping up anymore. They didn't
Really?
exist anymore. Yeah, and some of them replay, and some of them, I my brain is just, I guess, satisfied. It's purged itself of the emotions that came along with certain scenes or certain, events that I would create,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's just, but then my brain just decided it's time for new ones. But I do think that's more of the creative process now forming itself.
It's it's like you uploaded it somewhere else.
Yes, it's been
Drag and drop the
uploaded.
file.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now I've got more room for other things.
I had the impression, I might be wrong, that you there is going to be another one. Is there going to be a book
Hmm.
two?
Yes.
Have you started it?
I am nearly finished with it.
I'm excited about it. That's what that face was for. I was like, please don't just be starting.
I actually have already released the first 8 chapters to my beta readers. It's
Amazing.
it's an unedited version, but the reason I made that decision was for the reason that happened actually. I thought about sending it to my editor first and
Mm-hmm.
then to my beta readers, but I was like, well, what if something changes? What if, part of the
Mm.
story changes? Well, one of my beta readers, it was already like, yeah, this chapter doesn't really make sense because he could just do this. And I was just thinking of like, what if he, I don't want to get too like,
Yeah.
spoilery,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, oh my gosh. And it's really like, it's not even my, like, this is what my beta readers are for. It's not
Mm-hmm.
even where I was like, I mean, I was upset with myself, but so I have to rewrite some chapters, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had the time to do that yet. But
Mm-hmm.
I think at last count it was at about 65,000 words,
Nice.
which the first one is 68. I
Mm-hmm.
don't write long books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to write more before starting the editing process or the beta reader process, but I got stuck. I
Mm-hmm.
I got frustrated and I couldn't add any more or else it would be forced. So I wanted to start the
Mm-hmm.
editing process because I knew words would come naturally with that,
Yeah.
where I would find places where, oh, I should really expand on this. Um, so I'm at a really good place with it. I'm happy. I just haven't gotten time to go rewrite those chapters, and it's really like nagging at me. But we'll get there. All in good time. All in good time.
I mean, it's a good job that it's still nagging at you because then once you actually get the time, you can really get into it at speed rather than thinking, oh, I have no idea where to go from here. I suppose that's
For
the
sure.
beauty of having your beta readers read it first, is that they can go, have you considered this? And you can go, I hadn't. That's where I was
Right.
stuck.
Exactly.
Comparing book one, where you were like, I'm just going to write a book and then I'll learn what happens next, you now are so informed in comparison to the first time round. Have you changed how you've written or how you've gone about the whole process since the first time round?
The process itself, I won't know entirely until I'm through it, but I don't think
Mm.
anything will change. Um, it's pretty straightforward as far as just throwing it onto KDP.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my writing, I personally feel that my writing has evolved a lot since writing my first book.
Mm-hmm.
Even my mom is one of my beta readers, and she
Oh,
started
that's
reading
nice.
my first few chapters. And my mom, while she's my biggest fan, she's also a person to like, she doesn't have any issues with being like, yeah, I don't know about how this is written. You know, she has some loving criticism, but she's already mentioned that it's a lot more polished and
Hmm.
just a lot better writing than my first book. So I'm excited for that. I
Hmm.
think I'm getting into a lot of different techniques that I really didn't have when I started, when I first wrote my first book, because all I really
Hmm.
had was my own, just, I'm going to give this a shot. So I'm definitely excited for that. Yeah, the process is probably going to be pretty straightforward. One thing is my book cover has been
Hmm.
paid for like already 2 months now, and he's been working on it. My cover artist is wonderful, but he has a lot going on, so
Hmm.
it's I often have to wait. But I like that that's done, because that was one of the things that held up publishing Dark Bloom, was
Yeah.
that he didn't have all my files ready for me yet, and it took him a while, and that's okay, but I was so ready to get this out in the world.
Hmm.
Now it's like I'm not even done writing the book, and it's bought and paid for and good to go, so I'm excited for that.
That's cool. Are you stuck with the same artist?
I did, yes.
It was a
um
smart move because it was the first cover is phenomenal. It was so good.
yeah, I want to do, I have no issues with, changing up artists for
Hmm.
different books, but I want him to do something similar,
Yeah.
but also obviously in my opinion, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be even better than the first, just based off of what we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I want it to look really, really like similar in style,
Yeah.
rather than changing it up.
So it looks like part of the series rather than.
Exactly.
Is it just going to be 2 books? Have you thought about there being another one, or is it going to be? Are we going to be satisfied with the ending? Is what the question is. Are you going to leave us on a cliffhanger?
Oh, no cliffhangers. It's a satisfying ending.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a duology.
Mm-hmm.
I've toyed with the idea of taking characters from this world and
Mm-hmm.
maybe doing something later down the road. But as far as Nick and Kate, this will be the
Mm-hmm.
final book in their story.
Okay. Cool. Just wanted to make sure I didn't want to get my heart broken. You said that you like to write shorter books. I think that those are my favourites, by the way, because I like to know the whole story. I don't want to. I don't want to watch a season that's got 20 episodes. Give me an 8 episode season and shock me with everything. Um, is that the kind of type of book that you like to read as well? Because I know that you read quite a lot of horror stuff, as kind of clues in the name, in the pen name.
Just a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. I primarily for time purposes,
Mm-hmm.
I love reading physical books,
Mm-hmm.
paperbacks, or just that's my preferred method of reading.
Mm-hmm.
But I have such little time for reading at home, so if it's a shorter book, I mean, so here's an example. I just finished a really wonderful book that was 520 pages, and it took me almost 2 months to read.
Wow.
Meanwhile, yeah, meanwhile, I just started a paperback that's actually a little bit shorter than my book.
Mm-hmm.
I started it a couple days ago. I'm already halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't mind a long, beautiful story, but yeah, I definitely prefer a shorter, like, just hit you in the gut, give you everything you need, be upfront, be blunt, tear my
Mm-hmm.
heart out, and then next thing I know, it's done, and I have to move on somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly my, and novellas. I love novellas. I
Yeah.
I love novellas. I do enjoy a longer paperback for getting into the world and really absorbing the characters and who they are. But
Mm-hmm.
a good novella here and there just really makes me happy.
It's also satisfying to be able to finish a book as well, because if you've got one, I probably have about 10 books that I'm working on at the moment. Not writing,
Right.
reading. No, my brain can't cope with that. But because I need to be able to finish something. So if I've got like a 500 odd page book, some of them are so long, and I love that, and it's so impressive. But I have to finish something, otherwise I'll go crazy.
Yes, that
So
too. It's such a sense of accomplishment, and then you get to
mhm,
share it and talk about it, and
mhm.
it's just, yeah, it feels really good.
It does, it really does. Talking of sharing and talking about them, you started a YouTube channel.
I
Um,
did.
Tell us about it.
All right, my YouTube channel is called Where the Macabre Things Are. Um, it's up and coming. It's new. I have already posted a couple of book reviews, and then I did post a video outlining my experience as a self-published author producing an audiobook.
Mm.
I have had so many people ask me questions about my process, about the price, is it worth it, how I went about doing this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just decided to make a video where I lay it all out. I don't mind talking about how much I paid. I don't mind talking about any of that. So I made a whole video. Hopefully it helps and is interesting to at least those that it applies to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I made a YouTube channel when TikTok was about to die. I like TikTok, but it feels very isolating, whereas YouTube feels like a community.
Mm.
All of my friends are on YouTube, not a lot that I interact with on TikTok. So I just knew if I made a YouTube channel, I knew I'd have a lot of support, and I knew I'd have at least a couple people who come check out the videos that I post.
Mm-hmm.
And also another platform to shout about books that I love. That's a win. So
Is it something that you enjoy, like creating videos and sort of having that as a creative outlet?
yes, I do enjoy creating. Sometimes it can be tedious. The YouTube thing has been quite tedious at first, but I am ever growing and evolving and learning new things. So that's definitely a win. But yeah, I do. I enjoy talking. I enjoy people hearing me talk. So
That's perfect for you then.
I know I'm not going to shy away from I'm not going to shy away from that. But no, yeah, I enjoy just trying to be creative. I'm not out there like doing like flips off the side of the house or doing anything super crazy, but I know, sorry, no craziness in my videos, but just me talking about stuff. I enjoy it. I do.
There are loads of pockets of the sort of creative community that kind of live in certain places. It's fascinating. So you've got like the indie community on Twitter, and I've noticed there's like a YouTube community, especially like the people that like books and like talking about books and creative things. And it's really like cute's the wrong word, endearing maybe, to see the mutual support that that particular community gives each other. Like I can see everybody going on each other's shows and like supporting each other and shouting about like each other's work, and it seems like a really positive, supportive environment. And from my perception of TikTok, that was more like every person for themselves attitude. I might be wrong. That's just as an observer.
I don't really know what the difference is, but I know that TikTok is different because it's just videos. It's just short form videos. And I do have people on there that are supportive. It's harder to, I think, keep in touch the way that we do on Twitter. Whereas like I can share a video and everybody will go check it out, or I can just share a snippet about my day and like then we'll have a whole conversation about that. And whereas TikTok is just here's a video and then somebody might comment, and it's I guess this is what the best way to explain it is. There's not a good platform for long conversations to carry on. It's like you can post a short comment and then you can like I comment back and then they might comment back again maybe and then I'll like it. I don't know, it's not a great platform for like building relationships.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And also on TikTok I am mostly in the universe of like romance authors. That's the big portion of book talk is like dark romance and romance authors, which is fine. I enjoy being there. I enjoy the authors there. But there's not a lot of, well, honestly, and on Twitter it's mostly fantasy authors, I feel like, which again, I love them. They're amazing. But I feel like there's at least a lot more similarities with horror and fantasy authors than there is with horror and romance authors, I guess strictly romance authors. And I think that fantasy and horror has the ability to share the same audiences better than horror and romance. So that's not really like an insightful answer, but that's just like a few points of my experiences with both apps.
It's purely a question out of curiosity because it's just interesting to see how each writer creates their own community and ecosystem, because it has to be different for everybody. And it's good to take tips and get advice from people, but you've got to find what works for you. You've got to surround yourself with the people that are going to enjoy you and your work, and sometimes that can be really hard. And I've noticed a lot of people there's quite a large number of people just still haven't quite got the knack of just be yourself and
Mm-hmm.
care about what you care about, and the people will come to you eventually. Because
Right.
I think when you're creative and you're passionate about your creativity, you'll be drawn to people that are the same. You'll be drawn to people that care deeply about the thing that they're doing, and that they care enough about it to want to share it with you, and that's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always going to exist on every platform. And as you say, there are some distinct differences between each platform in terms of its audience. There's no right or wrong way to do it, I think.
Right. Yeah.
As long as you're honest and open to people and kind and not a dickhead, it's kind of easy, isn't it? Today has been lovely. Thank you so much for taking part in this. I really appreciate your support with the website and the show, and taking part in it, and taking a chance on this weird woman from Twitter that you cross paths with. So it is greatly appreciated, and I just want you to know that I hope that your success just continues to climb, because I love seeing good people win, and that is what's happening for you, and I want it to keep going. You hear that, internet? Help Molly, because she's great. Before I let you leave, where can our listeners find you and your work?
So my book is on Amazon. The audiobook is pretty much anywhere you can buy an audiobook. I have a website, macabremolly.com. That's going to link you to all of my book, my socials, my book reviews, my strange, blog posts, just anything you might be interested in about me. And yeah, I'm on pretty much every social media app.
Great, and I will put those links in the description of the episode. If you are interested in taking a look at Molly's feature on the website as well, I will be putting that link in the description of the episode. But yeah, thank you again for coming on. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you do for this community.
Oh, it's all right. I love it. It's one of the things I love doing. It's a labour of love. So yeah.